This is a very helpful quote. To learn a foreign language is to take on a new identity. This involves willing to become vulnerable, to allow other people to see the weak areas in our life, and that's okay. To become vulnerable to a degree not normally required in other areas of life. Just hang in there, friends. The good news will come in a few minutes' time. Self-confidence or lack of it. Inhibition. The third one, sorry, we'll go across that. Anxious or nervous. Those who are easily nervous, easily anxious, maybe with that game you just played, it's like a shutter that goes up. You're trying to remember a word and, oh, it doesn't come. I don't know if you discovered on OC, you suddenly bump into someone in the dining room, you see. Oh, what's his name? And as soon as you walk away, you remember, it's John, you see. That's the over 50s other problem. They can't remember the names. So, and we find that. Or it's interesting, two people are having a conversation and you're just observing and you understand. But then suddenly someone talks straight to you and you don't. We had or he still is in Taiwan, someone who is really quite a self-confident person. He used to work for the IVF, UCCFs of Taiwan. But he has this problem, I'm certain, that when he sees a Taiwanese person is coming towards him and he's going to say something, a message automatically goes to his brain, I won't understand what they're going to say. And sure enough, he doesn't. Why? Because yesterday the same thing happened, and the day before, and last week. That shutter goes up, you get tense, nervous, and it hinders recall. And we therefore need to create situations where we can relax, where we can keep that tension down. And that's what we're going to think about in a few minutes. But just before we go on to that, what's interesting is if we look at introvert, and then as it were, moving along then, shy, inhibited, and then move on to anxious and nervous. The shy person basically just needs time to find their friends. The introvert person just needs time to find their friends. Once they've found their friends, they're very happy and spend a lot of time talking with them, okay? The shy and inhibited needs to find warm, accepting people, and therefore needs someone to take them by the hand, to find friendly shopkeepers, to find friendly local people, okay? And once they feel comfortable with those people, then they're okay, The anxious, nervous person needs to create a place, a situation where they feel relaxed with someone who is warm and empathetic. And that's what I want to think about now, okay? To learn a foreign language is to take on a new identity. This involves willing to become vulnerable to a degree not normally required in other areas of life. This can cause the language learner to become anxious, inhibited, or nervous. Successful language learners create safe places, and that's what I want to think about now. Where are these safe places, and what do they look like? Where they can practice without fear or anxiety with warm and friendly people. Now, maybe you don't need this, but there'll be someone where you're heading for who will need this, okay? So let's just think through this now, creating safe places. As I said, I'm inhibited and I found it difficult to go out. And I remember my teacher said to me, Martin, you ought to get out more. You ought to get out and talk. That's why you're not fluent, you see. I thought, yeah, come on, Martin, you ought to get out and talk. And I thought, where are there people who I can talk to during the day? I thought, oh, I know, the local park. Lots of people there, lots of opportunities. So I got on my bicycle and cycled to the entrance to the local park, left my bicycle there, and started walking around. Yes, there were lots of people, it was marvellous. And I saw an old gentleman sitting on a seat. I thought, oh, I can talk to him. He's probably a bit lonely. But when I got close, I saw that he was sound asleep. And I thought, it's not right to wake him up. So it doesn't matter. There's lots of people you can talk to, you see. So I carried on walking. A bit further ahead, there was this young child. I thought, oh, our children are good, aren't they? But once it saw the big-nosed foreigner, it ran to its mother in tears. You know? I thought, no, I don't think this is the right situation. Doesn't matter. There's lots of people. And so I carried on walking, and there were these two people playing Chinese chess. And if you know, in China, in Taiwan, there'll be other people standing around looking at them playing. I thought, oh, this will be good. I can sort of come up and stand at the back and strike up a conversation with someone, you know, talk about the weather or something like that. And so I went up the back, but they were so focused on this game, I thought it's rude to interrupt. No, I'll just keep walking. There'll be someone. And I walked all the way back to the entrance to the park, got on my bike, and started cycling home. And how did I feel? Bad. You know, next day at school, I could see it. The others say, oh, I had a really great time. Someone said, I chatted with a guy on the bus and we went out for a meal, and someone said, oh, we were playing sports together. And they said, well, Martin, what did you do? I said, oh, I went to the park. Oh, that's a great idea. In fact, you probably had a lot of opportunities. Oh, well, sort of, so-so, you know. I think I'll go and practice my characters. The thing, friends, is our goal is to get fluent, right? And how do you get fluent? It's really quite simple. You open your mouth, right? And talk. And the key thing is, does it matter where we talk? Indoors or outside? No. So let's invite some people to our home where it's safe. Nowhere else is safe in China except your home, you know? And let's find some warm, friendly, empathetic, I think is the key word. Warm, friendly, empathetic people. They come at 7 and they go at 8. That's very economical on time. When they knock on the door and come in, I don't have to say, would you mind talking with me? I've hired them to talk, okay? No polite words, we just get straight down to business, you see? So they come at 7 and go at 8, okay? The key thing is, you must choose the topic. Don't let them choose the topic, especially in the early days, as you're in trouble, okay? You choose the topic, all right? But the other key thing is no textbooks, no textbooks. Else they'll think they are a teacher, and they're not. They're a talker, yeah, helper, okay? So no textbooks. What you want is the things on the table, okay? I tend to, like for instance, supposing you've just done the lesson on the market, okay? On the table you have some apples and some oranges and bananas and fruit and a pile of money, and you buy these from him, and then when you bought them, he buys them from you. You still don't feel fluent with these apples, oranges and bananas. You buy them again, and then he buys them again, and off you go for the whole hour. You see, he's paid to suffer. You ready? But the great thing is, they're willing to suffer because they want to help you. The warm, friendly, empathetic person. And that's why these people are very important. Good idea, right? Say yes, and I can continue. Yes. Now, don't just have one person. Have 5 people. There's one for each evening of the week. Okay? There was a school in Beijing, unfortunately it's run by OMF, which had one person going 5 nights a week. I said, you're making that person suffer too much. You know what I mean? 5 people, you see. Mr. Lee comes Monday night. Here the apples and oranges, buy, sell, buy, sell. You still don't feel fluent enough. Tuesday night, it's Mr. Huang. He didn't know what went on Monday night. Buy, sell, buy, sell. Wednesday night, Mr. Chen. Buy, sell, you see. Thursday night, Mr. Zhao, and Friday night, Mr. Yang. Oh, I remember 5 names. Saturday, you're ready to go to the market. See what I mean? Fluency comes through saying the same thing over and over again. And for these sorts of people, these warm, friendly talkers give you the opportunity because they know while they're there why they are there. They're there to help. You can't do it outside. You can't sit on a bus and say to the person next to you, here's some apples and oranges and bananas, can I buy them from you? You know what I mean? Going outside is a waste of shoe leather, let alone time. Bring them in. Bring them in. Ah, you must have been reading my notes. That is the key question. Where are these people? Especially in the early days, when you only know 200 words, 300 words. The problem is the people outside, they don't know what those 200 or 300 are. But who does know? Your school teacher. That's one person. We'll look at 2 or 3 people. Your school teacher. And so what I suggest to people, we do this in Taiwan, is hire a school teacher just for talking. So what I say to the OMFer is, of the teachers, we use a private school, of the teachers in the school, which are the ones you feel could take off the badge teacher and put on a badge talker for an hour a week? Okay? And we hire that teacher purely as a talker. The OMFer feels comfortable with them, and then kick it, cock, cock, talk away for the whole hour on apples, oranges, and bananas. Okay? So teachers, because they know what you know, and when you say, I'm at lesson 6, they know what that means, and more important, they know what you don't know, the likelihood of keeping it to your present level is much higher. Okay? I just want to say one thing. This is very important. Let's put it in now in case I forget. There's some linguist, whatever his name is, who says we need input at a level of I+1. We need people talking to us at a level of I+1, where I is your present level and +1 is slightly higher. You see, don't watch the television in your early days. You're wasting your time. That's I plus several hundred, or could be several thousand. A teacher who knows what you know and knows what you don't know is more likely to keep it to I+1, your present level, and something to slightly higher, which is of most benefit to you. Okay? School teachers. Another person is, especially in certain countries, thinking particularly of China, foreigners maybe not necessarily go to school, but they'll probably have a private tutor. So go fishing in other people's pools. Okay? Let's take Kunming as an example. Okay? In Kunming, where there's a lot of foreigners who have private teachers. Okay? They don't go to a language school. Well, go to the international church on Sunday and go around asking as many as you can meet and say, what's your private tutor like? You see? And one guy said, oh, mine's absolutely fantastic. Well worth, whatever I pay her. You see? Well, say, well, when she comes to your home, could I be there? I'd like to meet her. You see? So he said, well, she comes Monday at 9 o'clock. All right. Could I be there at 9? When she comes in, you go in the kitchen, pretend to make a cup of tea, and I'll talk with her for a few minutes. Very quickly, you'll know whether or not she's your cup of tea. You see? And if she is, say, sign here. You only want her an hour a week. If she's not, you just disappear out the front door when the lesson starts. So other people's tutors who are especially teaching the same curriculum are very useful. Right? Let me throw out one more, and then I'm going to ask if any other people think of it. House help, I think, again, particularly of China, and probably Thailand. We can't afford it in Taiwan, and certainly not in Japan, where house help is cheap. All right? Don't just take any house help the mission gives you. No. You want a happy, chatty, standard language house help. All right? The good house help understands they're in your house for 2 reasons. 1, to cook and clean, and 2, to chat with you. And they are worth their weight in gold, because they're there 4 hours a day, even 8 hours a day. Whether they like your Chinese or not, they're trapped. You know what I mean? They won't leave until you pay them at the end of the day. And so you can talk to them for 8 hours. We had one lady in Taichung. She was fantastic. She made me feel good about my Hokkien Chinese, which no one else could. All right? But when I asked her, could she help OMFers with language? She said, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm just a simple cook, cleaner. So don't just take anyone. You don't want the wrong person in your house. Ask around the other foreigners and it'll be worth waiting for the right person. Happy, chatty, standard household. If she can't cook and clean, it doesn't matter. And if it does bother you, go and hire someone else for that as well. Okay? Any other ideas where we can find these people? Because they're very important to us. Any other ideas? As the time's moving on. Good. No ideas. Okay, let's keep your eyes just on seeing the time. Good idea. A? Say yes. Yes. Now, often we think these people are great for the early days, which they are. But actually, these talkers are very valuable when we're at the intermediate level. The reason, especially when we're still at full-time language learning, particularly Japan, Korea, Taiwan, China. Because the problem is the language learner's life is a very simple life. We get up in the morning, we prepare for class, we go to school and have our class, we come home, we go to bed, we get up the next morning, we prepare for class. That's all life is for the next 2 years. And the problem is, we're now not in book 1 or in book 2, or we're actually climbing up the ladder. We're studying some cultural stuff, some Christian stuff, but our life is still, when we're outside talking, apples, oranges, and bananas. Okay? And that's the problem the language learner has in their second year. They're learning some more useful sort of stuff, but actually their life is still very simple. And with these talkers, because you choose the topic, you can say, I'd like to discuss the history of our country tonight, because that's what you studied in school this week. Or I'd like to discuss the political system, unless you're in China. I'd like to discover the political system of our country, or the geography, or something like that. And they are there to cooperate. They get you talking where normally in your life there's not the opportunity. See? Very important. Very important. Any questions on that before we move on? Okay. You may not need them, but there'll be someone who does. Okay. Look, let's just, because I always forget to pray. Let's just stop and pray now for these people, because they're going to be very important in your language learning later on, especially if you learn it. Let's just stop and pray, and then we'll move on. Father, I thank you for those who you brought into my life when I was in language school, those who were able to encourage me, to help me to feel good about my Chinese. And I just pray, my brothers and sisters here now, Father, that you would lead them to these people who are going to help them to be able to practice what they're studying at school, even in the early days, that they'd find these people who are warm and accepting and empathetic, who are willing to suffer, who are delighted to help us. Father, that we would be able to feel good about our language because we sense we're making the progress that we desire. We sense we're getting closer to be able to share what's on our hearts with those around us. So, Father, we pray you be preparing these people's hearts right now. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Myers-Briggs. Get out your Myers-Briggs. You probably remember who you are. All right. The extrovert. Right, I've lost my bit of paper. The extrovert. I think we all know who these people are. Oriented to the outer world, active, trial and error, sociable, scan the environment. The reason why extroverts, there's two things about them that make them such good language learners. One is they're very sociable people, and secondly, they're risk takers. Okay? They're sociable people and they're risk takers, and that's ideal. That's ideal. Okay? Now, the introverts. Hands up who are the introverts here. Okay, fine. Say something nice about yourself. What's good about the introvert as a language learner? It's sensitive. It's sensitive. Uh-huh.
In a positive way.
In a positive way, right? Right. Let's just throw this up. Mm-hmm. What else is good about them?
They like to minister to other people's needs.
Oh, okay. So they have that burden to want to help other people, which drives them to, good, good. the introvert, one problem with introverts, we said, is it takes some time to find their friend. The extrovert's very quickly surrounded by people. The introvert takes time. And the problem is for them in the early days is therefore, until they've found their friend, they're not using the language very much, okay? And therefore the likelihood of forgetting vocabulary and therefore needing to meet it more. That is one problem the introvert has. Now, if they can balance it out with hiring talkers, or they have high ability with language learning, that can compensate a bit. But they normally have to study harder than extroverts, but they're normally willing to anyway. Yeah, so introverts, just purely introverts, isn't all that bad. Okay, sure, introvert, okay. Intuitives, who are the intuitives amongst us? Okay, is it good for language learning?
Sure.
Yes. Why?
You don't have to understand every word.
Right, or the grammar rules for that much. No, you saved yourself a lot of time, haven't you? Don't have to understand the grammar. Well, how do you then get your language accurate if you don't understand? Surely you must have to memorize all the rules like what I did, no?
Trial and error. Yeah. But it's a gut feeling.
Yes. It feels right.
Yeah.
And the annoying thing to their analytical, especially if they're married, analytical husband is, they normally are right, you see. Where the analytical husband is, in Chinese, is struggling between, should I use the passive or the active, and should I use this, you see. What's the introvert do? It feels right, and they say it, you see, and it's often right. The introvert has a real advantage, okay? Flashes of insight, future, creative imagination, intuitive impressions, it's all very wonderful. Probably. Sensing patterns, yeah, okay, all right. Now, come on, the sensing people. I'm one of these, so you're S in it. Oh, good, yes, right, good, good. What's good about you guys when it comes to language learning? Yes, you pay attention to the details. It doesn't bother our intuitive friends here, but it bothers you, and therefore you focus on the details. And that's good. What other things about the high S person? They focus on the details. Anything about the other house? Sorry, let's throw some things up. They're probably fairly disciplined or conscientious sort of people. So they're going to work hard at getting the language. And especially if they see this language learning as very practical for daily living, okay, they're going to find that the advantage. Let's look at principles. Who are the T's here, the high T's? Okay. What I want to do is I'm going to throw up the F straight away, and I want to ask the Asian members amongst us, of the T and the F, what is more Asian? What fits Asian culture more? These, trusting, desire for harmony, subjective, personal consequences, they affect people, warm and empathetic, or these? F. The F, right? Yeah. And what I say, especially to Westerners who are very high T people, pray for the grace to have more F about you. Okay? Pray for the grace to have more F about you. For language learning, okay, the high T people, they're disciplined, they have clear goals. But when it comes to relating to Asians, they need to pray for these qualities, which are appreciated more by Asians. And therefore, the high Fs, who are the Fs here? I'm an F as well. Okay. Asians, your local people, are going to warm to you more readily because these are qualities that they admire. Okay, I just said it's more from a cultural aspect than that. Okay, the P's, the open. Who are the P's here? Okay, is it good for language learning? Why? Looks terrible to me. God, I'm a J. Right. My wife's a P. We have an argument every January. When we have our new diaries, I say, dear, Shall we go away on vacation this year on the first week in June or the second week in June? And what does she say? Why? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Why are we discussing this now? You know, 6 months. I said, well, dear, I want something to write in my diary, you see. What's the difference between the J and a P? It's when they call up the travel agent. Okay, what does the J do? This is the date I'm going, and this is the date I'm coming back. What does the P do? The return trip is open. Yeah, right. Plans? It might change. Mm-hmm. Is this good for language learning?
Yes.
Yeah, why? Yeah. Yes. And I think particularly things that are not clear and ambiguous, there's a thing called tolerance of ambiguity. When you learn language, things are not always clear straight away. And this person says, that's okay, it's not clear today, it'll be one day. And the annoying thing to the J's is they're right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now J's, come on, say something nice about yourself. What's good about J when it comes to language learning? Yeah, are you on time for class?
You bet.
Yes. When you have to hand in homework, is it ready? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The problem with the J's is, I want a date when I can say, I've finished learning Chinese. You know, this year, next, I want something to write in my diary. You know, 5 years from now, it's, okay, give me a date. And I can say, I've finished it. Anything else on personality? On that, okay? Just in the last probably 2 or 3 minutes, actually, is I just want to go on to just a few other personality things. It'll only just be a couple of minutes. Perfectionist. Is that good or bad when it comes to learning language? Not necessarily so. Why is it bad?
Well, it'll make you shut down a lot of times if I try to do it exactly right and I won't say it in the beginning.
Okay.
I'm going to do it right.
That's bad. What's good about it?
Well, you're striving to be the best that you can.
You're going to keep working at it till you get it right. Yeah. So those who are going to say, I'm going to keep working at this sound until I get it right, that's okay. The person who says, I'm not going to move on to the next lesson until I've got this one perfect, is in trouble. We don't learn languages that way. Good? Here's some others. Flexible. These are, I think, very key in language learning. Flexible, creative, open to try out new ideas. That's very important. Very important. There's this quote that I like. The acquisition of a new set of language learning skills seems to involve a certain amount of wrenching, pulling apart of cherished, much loved, and deep-seated habits. There was a missionary who came to Taiwan, not with OMF, and he hated any change. Changed the teacher, and he was so upset, so upset. And he actually didn't stay very long. He didn't stay very long. That agile mind, you walk out the front door and the neighbour says, oh, where are you going? And you want to say language school. But that's book 2. And you're still in book 1. And you say, I'm going to where I learn Chinese. All book 1 language, you see? The creative, agile mind. That's very important. And finally,
Martin, I think
yes, yeah, come in.
one point that is very Asian and maybe not Western. Is this concept of being thick-skinned
Uh-huh.
and thin-skinned.
Uh-huh, yeah.
脸皮厚跟脸皮薄.
Right.
I think in language learning is so critical. One doesn't bother whether people laugh at them.
Yes.
When they make mistakes. The other, oh my goodness, the whole world is collapsed around you when you make mistakes. The thin-skinned.
Now, yes, come in.
Sorry, I was just thinking the earlier slide about wanting to have good self-esteem. The Asians are very in your face and into correcting behavior, so maybe that's correlated. The reason I have thick skin is because people are so prone to say things to bring you down. You have to learn to develop that.
Uh-huh. The thing is, the first one you said about having thick skin, in many respects it's good. It's maybe to do with inhibition. But later on, it may not be quite so good. You know, I don't care, you know, they understand what I'm saying. As I say, as missionaries, our desire is not only to get fluent, to have fluent Chinese, but to have pleasant sounding Chinese. As I say, these are lovely languages we're going to learn. Let's not murder them, all right? In Chinese, or only those who know Chinese, we, as I was saying to Peter at lunchtime, we need fluent Liu Li language, but we also need Mei Li language, beautiful language. So that when local people hear what comes out of our mouths, they say, I'm enjoying this experience so much, I want to hang around and hear more. Not, as we say in Chinese, it pricks the ear. I want to get away from this foreigner as quickly as possible. I hope that the Chinese speakers here, when they hear my Chinese, enjoy the experience. If they aren't, I want them to tell me. I need to work on it some more. Okay? So this thick-skinned, to a certain extent, yes, inhibited, translating to Chinese, 爱面子. I think that's a good translation. Well, that's a love of face. We need to take risks, but we also need to end up with nice Chinese, or local language. Coping strategies. 5,000 Chinese characters. Are you overwhelmed? Or do you think, what a great challenge? You know, there's this quote, and we'll end with this. The good language learner feels that frustrations are somehow inevitable, occasionally even helpful, and that frustrations motivated and push them to learn harder in order to overcome them. Nice quote to end on. Okay, come, let's just pray together and then we'll stop.